Bradley.
And I'm Brendan.
And on today's episode of Story Proof, we are talking about my all-time favorite horror movie.
Jaws the Revenge?
I hate you, and I don't want to be on this channel anymore. Fuck no, not Jaws Revenge. I don't even like the first one. Yeah, see how fast you can hurt people's feelings, Brendan?
And I know that's a dead-ass lie, so don't even try.
I know the first one's so good. All of the others are so bad.
No, the second one is okay.
Damn, that's the only one I haven't seen. I've seen 1, 3, and 4.
Yeah, the second one is okay.
Oh, damn.
The third one is only fun because you get a young Dennis Quaid, and then you get young Leah Thompson in her first movie role.
So which one's the Revenge?
The Revenge is the one where the shark follows them to the Bahamas.
Oh, which one's at Disney?
There's not one at Disney. There's one at SeaWorld.
SeaWorld, okay.
And that's the third one with Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, that was bad. Is the fourth one with Michael Caine?
Yes.
Fuck me, yeah, those are bad movies. Oh, shit, man. Talk about diminishing returns on sequels for that one.
They are bad. The second one is still okay because it still has Roy Scheider in it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair. Man, we got really off topic for this.
Yeah.
We're talking about You're Next from 2011.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah. It is my all-time favorite horror movie. For some reason, I really enjoy home invasion movies. I'm not sure what that says about me as a person. There is just something about the idea of like the I guess quote unquote good guys having that home field advantage. There's just something about that is very appealing to me.
If there's any internet psychologists or actual psychologists who want to tune in to tell us exactly what's wrong with Bradley, please, by all means, do so. I would love to know.
I do see a lot of things about, like, you hear someone break into your house as you load your gun, you're like, these motherfuckers gonna learn today. I will admit, I feel a little like that. So I'm like, ooh, maybe that's fine.
That is entirely your personality.
Yeah, home invasion film with me would be very short one way or another. Either I'm going to get them very quickly, or I'm going to get gotten very quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie is from 2011. Very small cast. Fairly small budget. I say only $1 million. For us, $1 million sounds like a lot, and it is a lot of money. But in the realm of filmmaking,
especially modern day filmmaking,
yeah, dude, that is. I mean, I've heard of plenty of student films having budgets of like $10,000-$15,000 for a short student film.
Yeah.
And I will say, I don't ever feel like I feel the budget in this movie.
No.
It's not a whole lot of like well-known actors. Honestly, going into this, I only knew one person that was in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, it really is just like a lot of very normal-esque people in a very like annoyingly normal situation. When they're at the dinner table, God, that conversation, I'm like, this is too real.
Yeah.
This is written far too well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this movie is very fun. It's very enjoyable. It's not super gory. There are definitely some moments in here for gore hounds. You're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
You ever wanted to see what happens when someone gets a blender put in their head? Well, I've got news for you. But in rewatching this, I was surprised. Like, most of the kills are actually off screen.
Yeah.
Like, most of them in this movie are off screen.
That's true. That's very true.
And then you see the aftermath. Yeah. I will say that there's a lot of talk people often have in horror movies about the idea of like a good introductory horror movie. If I have a family member or a friend that doesn't like horror movies but they want to get into it, what's a good option? I've said Cabin in the Woods for a long time because I feel like that one is a little ridiculous enough and funny enough that it's pretty accessible. I would say You're Next is a very good option as well because again, it's not super gory. There's like one kill in this that grosses me out a little bit. But it's not a super long runtime. You're not having to keep track of like crazy rules and shit like Saw movies or I don't know, like Hellraiser and some of the shit they get into. Mm-hmm. I just feel like it's a very accessible movie, very enjoyable. Fucking love this movie. And yes, I actually watched this movie with my mom in preparation for this episode. My mom fucking hates horror movies. She hates a movie where there's a lot of blood and guts, which is a lot of horror movies. She hates anything where the main character dies, which is a lot of horror movies. She hates sad movies where a lot of people dies, which I don't know if you guys knew this, but that's a lot of fucking horror movies. But I have found lately, I'm like, she likes suspenseful things. She likes things that's not... I would never have her watch a Saw movie or Hostel or something like that. But something like this that's a lot more suspenseful. It is funny. There are a lot of moments where she's like on edge, and I'm just sitting there like, dude, this is like if you watch horror movies, you know exactly what's about to happen. Um, it kills me sometimes. We'll be watching something, and I'll say ahead of time, I'm like, hey, don't jump. And she's like, what? And then I'm like, because so many jump scares in movies are just telegraphed hugely. So it is kind of funny watching horror movies with someone who does not pick up on any of that.
Yeah.
I always get a kick out of that. The reason, I'm going to go ahead and say it right now, the reason this is my favorite horror movie of all time, okay, ready for this, is the main character, Erin. I find the final girl trope to oftentimes be very annoying because a lot of movies, the final girl just so happens to be whoever is left.
Yeah.
It's not really like this person put in the effort to survive throughout it, and that's the reason they're the final girl. Sometimes certainly that way. The one I always fucking think of, the two I really think of, are Jamie Lee Curtis in the Halloween movies. Even in that first one, dude, she kind of like develops even in that first movie to become like the kind of badass character who's fighting back against Michael at the end.
Yeah.
I really like that one. You get that with Nancy in Friday the 13th, where she's very actively trying to outsmart him from the very beginning. With Ripley from the Alien franchise, you get like the development of this character. But it just really bothers me sometimes when the final girl really is just the last victim, and then the bad guy gets foiled at the end, so you're like, okay. I do like movies when they have like a fake out final girl. Wrong Turn 2 is always the one that I think of, where the person you think is the final girl, she's like, oh my gosh, she turns around and starts running and just gets a fucking axe in the side of the head, and you're like, holy shit, okay. Didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, the one that I always think of with that is the Friday the 13th remake.
See, I was going to say, some of them will definitely get up to the end of the movie, and then all of a sudden, oh, gotcha. There's one of the Leatherface. God, I think that was maybe like the reboot prequel where she's driving away at the end, and you're like, oh, she's great. And then turns out Leatherface was in the back seat and just chainsaws her through the...
I don't know, man. There's so many. There's so many.
They did the remake with
movies.
Jessica Biel, and then they did a prequel of that.
Yeah.
I am 90% sure what I'm talking about is the prequel of that. I don't even fucking remember what the name, New Beginnings or some shit.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
And then there was that one with Alexandra Daddario where I don't know.
That was 3D. And that's its own weird.
Yeah, it's its own continuity. And
we have to talk about that shit at some point in time.
Yeah.
You literally have to like sit down and fucking graph out which ones are connected, which ones aren't. I mean, Halloween's sort of similar to
Halloween's
that as well.
very similar to Texas Chainsaw.
I do think Texas is definitely more convoluted as you go.
Yeah.
Too many ones is like, oh, this ignores 3 through everything else, but it connects from the first 2, and then this one will connect from just the first one.
Yeah.
This one will connect to that one, but it's a prequel. This one's got Jessica Biel. This one's what the fuck? So anyway, the main character, I mean, the second it hits the fan, that fight or flight mode, she is in fuck shit up mode immediately. She does so many truly ingenious things. And you spend a chunk of them, again, in rewatching this, because I knew the thing about her, and rewatching it, you learn it surprisingly late in the movie. It's not until she and Z are doing the nails in the board that finally she's like, how are you so good at this?
Yeah.
So the thing is she grew up in a survivalist compound.
Yeah.
So when these guys are trying to break into the house, there's a great thing where one of the characters runs, and there's a situation where she's on the ground and the bad guy's above her, and all she can really do is just like sit there and cry and then die. Very similar after that, we have a situation where there's a bad guy above Aaron. Aaron's on the ground. Dude, Aaron like kicks his knee out from under him, hits him with a meat tenderizer, and then just like obliterates this dude's head with a meat tenderizer.
Yeah.
And I like that those scenes are almost back to back. And it's just, Aaron is the best. Fucking awesome. Love her. Yes. This movie also has horror director Ty West in it for a very short, like a hilariously short amount of time.
Yeah.
And he is in the movie. He is a filmmaker, which just makes it funnier. Barbara Crampton is the person I knew going into this. I would say probably very well known for the first animator movie. Yeah, and this movie, it is a very simple movie in concept. It really is a home invasion film.
Yeah.
Sometimes movies hinge upon a big twist. I think the closest thing you get to a twist in this is the fact that Aaron grew up on the survivalist compound. A character towards the end was even like, wow, we had no idea you were going to be so fucking good at killing people. That's like my favorite line in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, fairly small cast. I think under, God, maybe even like under around 10 to 12 all in all. Because you've got the 3 bad guys, you've got the 2 in the cold open, which are in the movie for a minute.
Yeah, and then you got the family and their significant others.
Yeah.
So there's 4 kids, 2 parents.
I was like 10, 13. It's 15 people in this movie.
Yeah.
And watching it last night, I realized that one of the home invaders, you never get his name.
Yeah.
You get Craig and Tom. Tom is the one that I think he's Wolf Mask. There's Wolf Mask, Lamb Mask. I can't quite tell what the other one is supposed to be.
I think it's a Tiger Mask.
Oh, yeah, because he's the one that he's not in the movie for too long. He's the first one that gets killed.
Yeah.
We never learned his name.
Yeah. We just know that he's the other guy's brother.
Yeah, he's Craig's brother.
Yeah.
He's Lamb Mask. And it is weird that, like, Lamb Mask is the one of the 3 that has the most kills. Feel like he's probably the leader. If not, they definitely, in one particular scene, very much make it seem like he is the leader. And yet he has, like, the most uneventful death of the 3.
Yeah.
The Wolf Mask gets my favorite one where she's in the basement and just, like, removes his head with a block of wood. It's like a firewood chunk, a log, and she just goes to ham on. The other guy gets a fucking 40 whacks in the head with a meat tenderizer. Lamb Mask just gets stabbed in the head with a knife.
Yeah.
And he's not the last one killed either. I feel like that's a nice little subversion of expectation type thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very enjoyable movie. It's comes in right at about an hour and a half. Budget of $1 million. I think it made just shy of 26. I think it was like 25.9 maybe.
Yeah.
Most of the movie takes place in this house. It's a very nice house. You tell these people have money. And plot's not super hard to follow. I really like the characters. They're all written very well, acted very well. The movie is ridiculously funny. Like, even in the midst of there are people dying, people panicking. There's one moment where I think the sister yells at Crispin, and Crispin's like, "Stop yelling at me, Kelly!" In the middle of this, like, horrific scene. It is so fucking funny. Oh my God, when the brother's been shot, and he's like, "Oh God, you're such a scumbag." And the other brother's like, "Why are you being mean to me right now?" Oh my God. Oh, dude, this movie, it is just, I think it's a great gateway horror. That's the phrase I was looking for earlier.
Yeah.
Good introductory horror movie. Again, hour and a half, easy watch to sit down. Yeah, I cannot recommend this movie enough.
Yeah, I'm not as... I think it's a good movie. I like it. I'm not as big on it as you are. Then again,
fair.
we've talked about it before. We have different tastes in what we like in our horror movies. You're much more about the home invasion and monster movies and stuff like that. I enjoy more of like the supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
I like slashers. You're much more into the slasher thing.
Yeah, and
than I am too.
I don't like paranormal ones either.
Yeah, so
this just bore me.
So, for me, the one thing we can agree on, I think, is body horror. We are not. Neither of us are really that big into body horror.
Very hit.
I watched The Substance the other day, and man, it's a good movie. It's a very good movie, well deserving of the Oscar nomination it just got. Shout out to it. But man, it is hard to watch. I almost had to turn it off a couple of times just because I cannot do body horror.
You ever watch Society?
No, and I have no intention to.
I watched it one time, and boy, did I learn my lesson.
Yeah, Society is like one of those quintessential body horror films you're gonna find.
The Shunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of Cronenberg stuff is very hit and miss.
Yeah, Cronenberg is one I'm never gonna be able to watch.
You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is one of those ye old classic horror movies that has a cold open. We got to get our kills out of the way early.
Of course, it's a slasher.
Yeah. These also have a nice thing where they set up story beats later.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So you have a couple, Talia and Eric Harson. They are getting it on, and it's one of these. It's very. It shows you very early on how funny this movie is going to be.
Yeah.
Because they're having sex, and he's like, "Yeah, baby, yeah." He rolls over, and he's almost like that. Was it good for you? She looks so dissatisfied.
Yeah, she was not having it.
It was not. And then he's like, "All right, I'm gonna go shower." And then he obviously goes off and starts taking a shower. He looks a little like David Harbour in this movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just a little bit. Like if you ordered David Harbour from Wish, this is who you would get.
Yeah, Wish or Temu or something.
Yeah. But yeah, this first opening thing, yeah, so he's in the shower, she gets up and she walks in like their living room. Seems like a very pretty house with a lot of woods outside, and they've got like motion lights outside, and it goes off, and she looks and she doesn't immediately see anything. She like has a door open and looks out, like pokes her head out. I'm like, you just came out and saw the door to your woods is open. You don't think, maybe there's someone in the house.
I am going to defend the script a little bit in this because we find out during the conversation with Barbara Crampton and her husband later that this is like a teacher-student relationship, like a college teacher-student relationship. So theoretically, she may not have been around very long.
I still call bullshit.
So
you're in a house. You were just banging some old dude. Right, he's not really that old. You're just banging some dude. You walk out and you're like, an open door in our house in the woods at night. I'm sure nothing bad. Come on, man. You don't think something.
They also make a point of how it's basically just them and like the professor, what's his name? Eric,
yeah.
And then it's Barbara Crampton and her husband.
Yeah, they set that up later.
They set it up later, but it is kind of established in the text of the movie, even if it's not established here.
I still think it's dumb. But yeah,
I mean, it is dumb because it necessitates a horror movie to make it a little dumb, but it also gives you that extra sort of juxtaposition of, okay, this is the dumb that we've got going on, and then eventually you're going to get Aaron's intelligence with her preparation.
True. Yeah, it's a very different version of Aaron. Yeah, I mean, she makes a drink. I do like the motion lights going off.
Yeah.
I always think that's a very classic thing. I think of Halloween 2018.
Yeah.
Which uses it to very good effect. This has a similar thing. And she makes a drink. She puts the CD in. And she has a moment where it's one of these like jump cut things. She turns around. She sees Lamb Mask in the reflection. She turns around. You don't see anything else.
Yeah.
And then we follow the dude getting out of the shower for like a hot minute.
Yeah.
Like he's getting out. It's like zoom-ins on his like wet body. He dries. He wraps. I was like, man, we're spending a while watching this dude get out of the shower.
Yeah, it's a weird
thing. It's a choice. But yeah, he comes out and he goes into the living room area, picks up her drink and starts drinking it. And then he sees something, written across the giant fucking glass doors and windows that he has off to the side. And he sees "You're next" written on it. Spoiler alert, title of the movie.
Woo.
And he goes up and he goes to like touch it and realize it's on the other side.
Yeah.
And then as he looks in the reflection, he sees her very dead, very bloody body on the ground behind him.
Yeah.
And then it's like a really fast, he turns around, someone grabs him, puts him up against the wall, raises a machete, dude screams, brings the machete down.
Yeah, they die. And then we get into I mean, I hate to be so crass about it, but
they gone. I mean, he's still in a few different scenes.
Yeah, technically. But then we get Barbara Crampton and her husband. I feel really bad. This is like Gladiator all over again.
Do you want character names?
Yeah.
Aubrey and Paul.
Aubrey and Paul. Gotcha.
I do have all of their names here.
So we got Aubrey and Paul. They're a married couple. They're driving in their car up to their vacation home.
Dude, seriously, they're like, oh, it's like our vacation home. It looks like a fucking inn. Like they bought like a fucking hotel. This thing is huge. I say hotel. Inn is more accurate because it is like a house on the inside.
Yeah,
but it is huge.
So it's a very clear sort of they have money thing like you said earlier.
Oh yeah.
So they make mention. They drive past Eric's house, and they make mention, like I said, of how.
He left his wife. He's banging a college student. We're the only ones up here.
Yeah, so it sets up all of that stuff of like, okay, we're completely isolated. So now we can kind of justify maybe what the girl in the previous scene was thinking.
But they get up to the house, and when they get there, they mention the fact that the door is open.
Yeah.
So immediately you're like, oh, okay, horror movie, probably someone in the house.
Yeah.
And the dad is like, the workers probably left it open.
Yeah, because this was apparently his like post-retirement like fixer-up project.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go ahead and let you know some of the things that we find out later. He was retired from, I believe it makes it sound like a weapon manufacturing company. He worked in marketing.
Yeah.
We find out later that his inheritance, along with millions of dollars, and fixing up this home was fixing up this fucking village, was supposed to be his retirement project. But one of his sons later on is like, yeah, really, he doesn't fix it up himself. He just pays people to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they get there, it's got sheets on a lot of things. They immediately start pulling sheets off and doing clean and whatnot. The dad mentions that he's going to go downstairs and check the furnace to make sure everything is working. There are a few moments where it sets up the idea of a jump scare. Really, it's just poor Barbara Crampton being so paranoid in this house.
Yeah.
She says that she hears something
moving
above.
Yeah.
So she thinks there's someone upstairs. So she tells her husband, and he's like, "No, I'm sure you're just hearing things." She's like, "No, we need to go outside. We need to leave. We need to leave now." And he's like, "No, I'm gonna go check it out." So she goes and stands in the driveway while he takes like a wooden stick and goes upstairs. And around this time, we meet Aaron. So we meet Aaron and Crispin. They are coming up to stay at the house. We find out that Aaron and Crispin, boyfriend, girlfriend. Crispin is the son of these people.
Yeah.
This is the medication thing. Is Aaron makes a joke about, is there any alcohol at the house? She says something about your parents have money, so I'm guessing they're gonna have really good booze, right? And he's like, actually, there's not gonna be any because my mom's on medication. So she's like, cool, we should stop and get some.
Yeah.
And they do.
Yeah.
So also, Aaron does have an Australian accent in this movie. There is talk later about her growing up in the survivalist compound. It was in Australia.
Yeah.
There is also a joke that Kelly makes about, God, her accent's so annoying. She's the only person with like an accent in this movie, which is kind of funny. I say with an accent, of course, to me as an American, I'm saying she's the only one with an accent.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're coming up to the house. So the dad goes upstairs. He's about to open a bedroom door almost, and Crispin comes up and is like, "Hey, Dad!" That scares crap out of him. You kind of have a moment of blah blah blah. They walk away, and then you see the door start opening. So you're like, okay, there is definitively someone in the house.
Yeah.
But what's so funny is when Crispin comes up, he's like, "Dad, I don't want to be insensitive about this, but like, why is Mom crying in the driveway?" It is so fucking funny, because then sure enough, they get out there, and Aaron is like comforting Barbara Crampton, who's just like weeping in the driveway. So immediately you're like, okay, this woman does not handle stress very well.
Yeah.
And the dad is a little blasé about it. I kind of think if I got to a house that I haven't been living in, I think if I get to a house and I'm staying in and the front door is fucking unlocked, I'm like, okay, something might be going on here.
Yeah, if it were me personally, I'd probably like call the police and just have them.
Just have them check. But, just please. Because spoiler alert, that could have prevented a lot of fucking issues later on.
Yeah, but if he'd have also just gone through and gotten that one last closet that he had to get.
Yeah.
Of course, then the killing spree would have started, but it would have started early.
Maybe.
Maybe
the dad beats his ass with the stick. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
But yeah, then we get it's actually a kind of nice bit after this where it just keeps introducing characters kind of one after the other. So Crispin and Aaron, they get there the night before. They stay in a room upstairs. There is talk where it's very clear that they don't have a lot of money. Crispin's parents do have a lot of money, but they themselves are struggling a bit financially.
Yeah. And
they go to bed, wake up the next day. At this point, one of his brothers has arrived. So his brother Drake, who I like Drake. Drake's kind of like the douchey older brother character, but I think he plays it well.
Yeah.
So it's Drake and Drake's wife, Kelly. So we meet them pretty much immediately the next morning, and then we just get character introductions up until we get to dinner. So you've got a total of 4 siblings, and then each of them has a significant other. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and tell you all their names, and then you're not going to have to remember very many of them very long. Because, spoiler alert, not many people survive this movie.
Yeah, they're in it for maybe like 10 minutes before everything starts.
So you've got Aubrey and Paul, which are the parents, Crispin and Aaron, which are, I would arguably say, probably like the 2 main characters. Yeah. Certainly Aaron being the main character. You've got Drake as the older brother and his wife Kelly. You've got a younger brother named Felix, and he's got a girlfriend named Z. Z's very like goth looking. I don't know why I'm feeling the need to point that out. And then you've got the younger sister. Her name is Amy, and her boyfriend is Tariq. Tariq is played by fucking Ty West, which I think is hilarious.
It's hilarious in hindsight, especially because we know where he's kind of gone with his movies, with the X trilogy and all that stuff.
Yeah, the fact that he's a horror director and he's in this talking about being a filmmaker. Yeah. We do get a few small scenes that ultimately don't really pan out. We do see the mom that she took her medication at night. Okay. They never say what it's for. I don't know. It feels like maybe that was gonna be a thing and then they just scrapped part of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's probably a discarded plot line that was put away. But
the one thing I do like about it is when she goes to the kitchen at night and she gets the water out of the fridge, they've got one of the old-timey fridges. So like the old kind of rounded looking ones that have the metal latch on front. I don't know why I just like those. Something about that old fridge. I don't know. It's just a very charming look to it.
I have the same thing about islands and kitchens. I don't know what it is. I enjoy islands.
Have you ever had one in a kitchen?
No.
Fuck them. They're annoying. I say that. If I had one that could roll around and you could move and adjust, okay.
It might just be because they seem inherently cinematic to me. Like most movie.
You know what? Fair.
Most movie kitchens you'll see have some sort of island or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. There is a really weird moment that we mentioned earlier with the milk thing where Barbara Crampton is, I guess we're just going to call her Barbara Crampton the whole time, fuck it. Where she's in the kitchen and Erin comes along and she's trying to be helpful and she's like, oh, can I help? And Barbara Crampton's like, no. And then she's really like, well, I mean, I don't even think she says like, I need milk. I think she just like, is like, we're out of milk.
Yeah.
And then she looks at her and Erin's like, oh,
do you want me to go get some?
It's a very awkward interaction.
Which,
and then she's
fair.
like, yeah, it's just a little weird. But then she's like, oh yeah, maybe you can go to our neighbor's house and see if you can borrow some from him.
Yeah.
Which really is just setting us up to remind you and definitively show you this is the house from the cold open.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna kind of just assume that there's not really a grocery store nearby that they could just drive to because everybody drives to this house. The cars are still
they're still there,
available. I don't know. It, like you said, it really just serves as a plot device to remind us of the house, the location, and everything else.
Yeah. As she goes to leave, though, there is a great character setup moment for much later in the movie. That when she leaves, the dad is outside grilling, and Drake and Crispin are out there, and they're all kind of talking, and they're just shooting the shit. And Crispin and his dad are talking, and it's clear that like Crispin's not doing great. He's not particularly successful. He does say something about he didn't get accepted for an internship, and he's like, "Oh, it's because I haven't been published in a while." And the dad's like, "Plenty of people have gotten that haven't been published," and you're just like,
"Yeah."
It's this one of those just fucking awesome scenes where it doesn't necessarily further the plot. It just sprinkles in a lot of good character motivations that you then get to see come back later. Because honestly, his dad, I don't think there's any scene in this where I'm like, his dad's a dick.
No, his dad's not a bad guy or anything like that, but it's one of those things that a lot of people have with parents where
all we do is disappoint our parents.
Yeah.
That's all we all do. It's fine.
Or at least we all at least feel like we disappoint our parents.
Yeah, some of us know. It's fine. Everything's fine. But yeah, so she goes and knocks on the door at the house. You can, for whatever reason, they have like displayed the dude's dead body up on a couch. Yeah. The music is playing. We see it's the same house. Not really a whole lot there.
Yeah.
It just sets up the fact that is the murder house from the cold open.
But she can't like see the guy sitting inside. She just knocks, doesn't see anything, and just kind of walks away.
Yeah, the camera angle shows us that he's on the couch.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was so funny. I convinced my mom he was still alive. Because my mom was like, he's dead. Did they put him up like that? I'm like, no. We didn't actually see him die. We just saw the blood. She's like, oh, okay. And then later on, she's like, you lied to me.
Yeah.
She's going to listen to this episode and get very mad at me. Outing her like this. But yeah, we get the moment outside when they're cooking. We get the moment of the milk. And now we're into the dinner scene. And man, once we get here, it is balls to the wall from here to the end.
Oh, yeah. This dinner scene especially is, like, very real in a lot of ways. You have the petty squabbling between the siblings about, what is it that they... Drake is making snide comments about Crispin.
Yeah, so we learned that Crispin...
he's like a professor.
Yeah, he was a professor, and Aaron was his TA.
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, we stopped her being my TA when we started dating because we thought it was a bit inappropriate. And then Drake, like, goes, okay. Goes to take a sip, and under his breath is like, seems a little unprofessional to me. And then Crispin's like, what was that? So then it's just like this bitch and it's perfect that they're sitting across the table from each other because that makes the shots really good. And I mean, it builds. There's a lot of awkward conversation going on. I mean, it's a lot of people at a table.
Yeah.
And it's building. They are on the verge of shouting by the end of this. And all of a sudden, Tariq is like, what the fuck is that? And he gets up and walks to the window and he's looking out like he sees something.
Yeah.
He does.
He does.
Not for long.
Before we get to that, I do want to make a comment about one of my favorite things about this is Drake's interaction with Tariq, where Tariq's talking about he's a documentary filmmaker. He's telling the truth, and he was at an underground film festival.
Underground film festival, and Drake's
like,
is that a festival underground?
Yeah. Do you literally show the movies underground? Like, is it? It's a very much a, oh, okay, you're a filmmaker kind of thing.
Yeah.
Air quotes and all that. Like, good for you, buddy.
He doesn't have to worry about it long. He's about to die.
No, but I still feel it.
It is a great setup moment where it's like the majority of everyone's focus is on this table.
Yeah.
At this point, I hate to say it, probably the most expendable character we've met so far.
Yeah.
Gets up and walks to the window.
He's looking out.
Yeah, he says like, what the fuck is that? You hear a sound, but like people are shouting so much at the table that not everyone catches it.
Yeah.
And Aaron looks down and sees broken glass, and then looks up, sees the hole in the window, and then Drake kind of starts to quiet down a bit as he's look. And then the camera like pans out, and Tariq turns around and just has a crossbow bolt sticking right out of his forehead.
Yeah, you see him kind of convulsing for a minute, just standing there, and then he turns and falls, and that's when everything goes.
Yeah,
down.
dude, it is just fucking the shit has hit the fan. Someone starts just lobbing crossbow bolts into this house. Of course, everyone is screaming so much. Yeah. Oh my god, they scream for like the next 7 minutes solid.
Which honestly,
I
can't blame them.
But yeah, so some people drop down. Erin at one point has to move from one side to the other, so she goes under the table, which also has a big tablecloth that covers it.
Yeah.
So you see pretty fast. Okay, that's smart. I think a few people do it.
Yeah. And
then Barbara Crampton, the mom, she's just kind of standing there like not really sure what's going on. Drake, the older brother, goes to get her, and as he does, he gets shot in the back with a crossbow bolt. That crossbow bolt is going to be one of the funniest things in this fucking movie. It is stupidly funny how much they do with this crossbow bolt.
Yeah.
But so he's hit. Tariq is dead. Bolts are still coming in. So then they're trying to get from one side of the room to the other. They're trying to go into, it looks kind of like the kitchen. It's a little hard to tell because it's in the left of the door, which I'm pretty sure is the kitchen. And they're trying to get across. And this is the first moment where Erin does a very big brain thing where what she does is she's giving people chairs. And she's like, hold it up in front of you and run. And as they do, the person on the other side is having trouble seeing the people, but then we see a few people run, and then Aaron grabs a chair and runs, and they shoot at her, and they would have hit her, but it hits the chair. Chair stops the bolt. So you're like, okay, cool. Big brain moment.
Yeah.
So now they're in the kitchen. They're all just fucking screaming. There's a moment where someone's like, call 911. Oh my god, I can't. The phone lines won't go out. And then this is when the younger brother is in like the other room, and Felix is yelling like, they've probably got a phone jammer, you can get one online for like $30. And Drake, who has been shot, is like, oh, of course you know such a fucking lowlife thing like that. And Felix is like, why are you accusing me of being a lowlife? It is so fucking funny. In the middle of all of this, they are still bitching at each other.
Yep, true family stuff.
Yeah, and then after this is they're in the kitchen. Oh my god, I just remembered the Kelly line. Oh my god, dude, this movie is so fucking funny. I mean, this dude just fucking died, but it's still kind of funny.
Yeah.
They're in the kitchen, and then they're like, okay, the phones don't work. Someone's gonna have to run. Who's the fastest runner? And Drake is like, I'm the fastest, but I've got this crossbow bolt in my back. And then I think Crispin's like, what? Why can't you fucking go anyway? And then Kelly's like, he's got a fucking crossbow bolt in his back. And then this when Crispin's like, don't yell at me, Kelly. It is so fucking. And then Crispin's like, I'm the fastest. And then Drake's like, you're short and fat. When the fuck have you ever been the fastest? And then the fucking sister Amy is like, I'm the fastest. And they're like, no. And she's like, y'all don't ever believe in me. So yeah, they determine that Amy's gonna run. Felix and the dad are both by the door, and Felix is like, they're not expecting anyone to just come running straight out at them.
Sure.
And this is the one that this kills me. This is the one I don't like watching. I don't like seeing, because Amy seems like a genuinely nice, sweet person.
Yeah.
She really seems to like Aaron. Seems to get along with them. This is a big brain moment from the guys outside, because what happens is she takes her shoes off. She's gonna just barrel through this door, and she starts running, and they open the doors, and she runs into like a garrote wire that is set at roughly throat level, and man, it cuts like 3 inches into her fucking throat.
Yeah.
And she falls back, and I mean, dude, this is one of those things where like, one of my favorite movies is Black Hawk Down, and there's a moment where a dude gets blown in half, and they're like, medic! And the medic comes over, he's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
This is a little like one of those moments where you're just like, dude. And for me, the saddest deaths in movies are always when a parent sees their kid die.
Yeah.
That fucks me up a lot more than anything else. That's like, it's not supposed to happen.
Well, you got a real problem with this one.
Not for long, because parents don't last long.
Oh, yeah, but...
but yeah, she's just, I mean, she's there on the floor, and they're just holding her as she dies.
Yeah.
And they're all screaming, they're all crying. Drake, where he is, kind of like looks over and is able to just see her dead body.
Yeah.
And dude, it is so fucking sad.
Yeah, it's all punctuated by Barbara Crampton's wailing.
Yeah, she is.
And she's just, this is where she completely loses it and just...
yeah, she has a fucking mental break at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got Amy and Tariq are off very early. Drake does say something about bring me drugs. I think he mentioned earlier about, do you have the Vicodin?
Yeah.
So he and his wife are popping pills. So because there is a moment later where he's like, I don't even feel it. And he like pokes the bolt. And he's like, see, I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
So things do settle down a little bit after this, because it's very much when it first happens, and then it settles a little bit.
Yeah, because they escort Barbara Crampton up to the bedroom on the second floor, because she, like we said, she's a inconsolable mess at this point.
Yeah, and the dad's like, I'm just gonna get her to lay down. He gets her upstairs, gets her down in the bed. He leaves, and then we see the hand coming out from under the bed.
Yeah.
Barbara Crampton is no more.
Yeah,
Very
that's
sad.
the end. I will say I'm very impressed. I'm just going back to the garrote wire real quick. I am very impressed that they managed to get it to the exact height that they needed to get.
For that particular person to run.
Yeah.
Because what if it had been Drake?
Yeah, it would have gotten him
pecs.
in the chest somewhere. So it's a little convenient.
It's very,
but
plot reasons.
But anyway, yeah, going back, Barbara Crampton gets killed off screen. All right, so in the meantime, as we see him emerge out from under the bed, we see Erin go into the kitchen, and she's starting to gather up like knives and meat. I think she's got a meat tenderizer. Yep. She's got a bunch of different things that she's going to start. And she's at the sink, and there's a window above the sink, and one of the invaders sticks his hand through and grabs her in the thing. And she struggles for a minute there, and then she just swings around with a knife and just impale.
Dude, like, she pins his arm to the wall.
It's full on like Michael Myers pinning to the wall, like, into the window frame.
Yeah, and he screams, and then she like looks down to grab something else, takes a second, looks up, and he's gone. There's blood on the window.
So then, after that, they hear a noise up above them, and everybody rushes up to see what's going on. And this is where they find Barbara Crampton dead on the bed. There's a big "You're next" on the wall right there.
Yeah, gotta trademark it.
In blood. Gotta do it. We got a brand. We gotta keep it. So everybody sort of mourns over that for a little bit, and then they start to file out and go back downstairs.
Yeah.
But Kelly kind of hangs around for a second. She takes a sheet and kind of puts it over Barbara Crampton to just sort of like...
Does not pull the machete out, though.
Does not. You're right.
I feel like that's the... as soon as I came upstairs, I was like, oh, that's so sad. But they gave us a weapon.
Yeah. But then she... I don't remember exactly what sparks it in her.
I think she just kind of like looks and sees the window is closed.
Yeah.
And realizes like, oh,
like somebody,
this person couldn't have left.
Yeah, so she has the idea to...
Yeah, she gets down and she looks under the bed. It actually has a nice jump scare moment where you think she's going to look and immediately see him. And you have a moment to be like, oh, there's nothing. Boom, and then there he is. You're like, oh, shit. She just like takes off like a bat out of hell. It is a little comedic that... The guys are like huddled up at the bottom of the stairs, and she just fucking keeps running past them.
Everybody's trying to figure out what the heck's going on. She runs right out the door. She remembers the garrote wire's there, so she ducks under the garrote wire, and she keeps going. And so Drake...
God. This is one of the first big comedic moments with... damn, we missed one comedic moment where after he takes the drugs, there's a moment where Aaron's like, are you okay about like the crossbow? He goes, yeah, I can't even feel it. And he goes and like touches it and nothing. But yeah, then when Kelly takes off out of the front door, he goes to run after her. He ducks under the wire, but doesn't duck far enough for the arrow not to catch.
Straight up just pulls the dang bolt out of his shoulder and then immediately fades.
He fucking turns around, and it's one of those I swear he should have gone, oh. And then, by the way, should mention at this point, Drake, probably biggest guy in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, he's pretty damn, like, tall and broad. He's like a big guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he falls, and... Kelly takes off. She's going through the woods. She is not going quietly. She is screaming. Someone help us. Someone help me. Scream, scream, scream. Run, run, run. So she goes to the closest location.
The neighbor's house.
Eric's house.
Yeah.
And when we say neighbor, it is like a little ways away. It's not right next door, but it's also not like 10 miles.
Yeah. Because
she runs there fairly quickly.
Well, shoot, Erin walks there when she's trying to get the milk earlier.
Yeah. So she gets there. This is maybe the closest I think the movie gets to being like flat out mean-spirited, because she's there and she sees the guy on the couch, and she's screaming, she's yelling, she's like, "Why don't you help me? Why don't you help me?" And then Landmass comes up behind her and just fucking puts her through that wall.
Yeets
and it's
her.
Just damn it, I missed it. Yeah, yeets her right through the damn thing, and she is just covered in broken glass, and it's like crawling around on the floor for a bit. The fucking music is playing. She sees that the dude on the couch is very dead. He's missing a good chunk of his skull. And yeah, the fucking dude just like fucks with her a bit, like picks her up and puts her through the table. Like, dude, fucking just end it.
This one is just like the one in Jurassic World where the babysitter gets like, it's just one of those mean-spirited things that just like Kelly wasn't like great or anything, but she didn't deserve all that.
Yeah.
But
and then he's got a very large axe. It is interesting that it is I think it's like a splitting axe. Yeah. Because it looks like a sledgehammer that they just sort of formed into an axe blade on one end. Yeah. And he puts it right up next to her head like a golfer would next to a ball.
It's like a croquet mallet almost or something.
And then just brings it up and buries it in the side of her head.
Yeah.
And one thing that I think Wingard particularly enjoys in his films is the idea of killing someone with something and then leaving it in them. Because the machete was left in Barbara Crampton's head. The axe, he lets it go and it stays upright in her head. And then he sits on the couch next to the dude's dead body, and it's a darkly comedic shot.
Yeah.
Where he's like sitting there, and the guys, I will say, they're wearing masks. Everything beneath that, it's very just like blacked out gear.
Yeah, it's tactical gear. Almost.
Yeah. And none of them brought a gun, which seems very strange to me.
Yeah.
The closest they got was a crossbow, which, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he sits down, and he's kind of like almost maybe catching his breath a little bit while the dead dude is next to him. Again, little comedic.
Yeah.
But yeah, she is, poor Kelly is very, very dead.
Yeah. And
I know what's next. Do you want me to keep going?
What is next? Is this when Aaron brings all the knives in and she falls, and this is where they get attacked?
Crispin leaves before that.
That's right. Crispin goes after. He doesn't go after her. He's just trying to get to outside of the jammer signal.
Kind of. There is a scene where he goes and supposedly checks the cars.
Yeah.
And it's not directly stated, but when he gets out to the cars, the hoods are popped. And then he comes back in the house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly there's got to be a reason that they can't just drive out of here.
Yeah, we got.
But they don't. He doesn't have a line about they sabotage the cars, cut fuel lines. None of that. It's just the fact that the hoods are up when he goes out there, and supposedly they can't drive away after that.
I think he says he says something along the lines of that they can't drive out of here. But you're right. He doesn't really like check the cars or anything to see what's going on. So maybe that's your first hint at what's gonna come later. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then Crispin decides he's going to make a run for it to try to get out of range of the jammer so that he can try to call 911.
One thing we should also mention, because it does come back into play later, I forgot about, is Aaron does mention early on that sometimes you can text 911.
Yeah.
And they will like send people out. So
Yeah.
she did that earlier. But yeah, he then says, he's like, I mean, Kelly made a run for it, and maybe she made it.
Yeah.
I will say he cuts the wire in front of the door, which
Yeah.
smart. Someone should have done that by now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he cuts it. He takes off. Crispin is gone for like almost the entire rest of this movie.
Yeah.
He's gone for so long.
You basically just don't know what happened to him. You basically assume that he's probably got.
So this is when Aaron has got like a armful of like blades and weapons and things. And as she's walking by where the dining room was, there's these big windows in front of it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, boom, someone busts in. This is Tiger Mask, and he does not go well for him. He attacks Aaron, and this is that moment I was talking about earlier where like he has her down on the ground. He's like standing over her, and dude, she just like kicks his knee out. He goes down, takes the tenderizer, hits him at the back of the knee. He goes down. I think maybe hits him in like the shoulder, and then just on the back of his head, I mean, starts wailing on him. I should also say that Z and Felix are like right there in the room, and they're just watching her murder this guy.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, she looks up at them and she's like, "Thanks for the help." And Felix is like, "It looks like you had it handled." And she's even like, "No, fair."
Yeah.
And then she pulls the mask off and like lifts it up and is like, "Either
Do
you guys recognize this guy?" And they're like,
No.
"No." And then Felix is like, "I mean, it's kind of hard to tell because his face is fucked up now."
Yeah.
But yeah, she leaves it. Dude, that meat tenderizer, that is her go-to in this movie. What's funny, I should also mention, Erin's not a very big person. Like, she's very skinny. She's kind of small stature. Later on, she's walking with the meat tenderizer, and, like, she's holding it with two hands.
Yeah.
It's just a meat tenderizer. It's you know, a glorified hammer. But she's, like, so small, she's holding it like it's a big thing. And then, yeah, Paul, the dad, he goes upstairs, and he's got... a fire?
He's got either a knife or a fire poker.
Oh, he has a knife. That's right. He goes up with like one like chef's knife.
Yeah, because I think he kind of does the same thing Kelly does, where he
realizes
sums up.
He couldn't have come down.
Yeah.
So he goes up and he's looking around. He finds that there is a closet upstairs, which is the one that he didn't open earlier.
Yeah.
He finds sleeping bags. There's like wrappers. There's a bottle of pee. So he can tell that someone's been there and probably for a while. And then as he's up there, you see one of the masked people walk in the background. So you're like, oh shit, what's going to happen? And then as he's up there, Felix and Z come to check on him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's literally sitting there talking to them, like explaining there's someone been living up here, explaining what's happened. All of a sudden, boom, right behind him, machete right across his throat.
Yeah.
And he dies for a while. Like he
Yeah.
like falls against the lamp, falls down. His blood splatters on Felix, and for a moment you're like, "Oh man, what
What are Felix and Z gonna do? They got this thing going on."
Yeah.
But at the same time, then you start to think, okay, they had to have seen this guy coming up behind his dad. So why didn't they try to warn him? And then Felix says, "You had to really do that in front of me."
And now you're like, "Oh shit."
So this is the big twist of everything is Felix and Z have basically conspired with these invaders to kill off the family so that they can get the inheritance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then after that, it really does just become this happens and this happens and this happens. Landmask comes back in and he finds Tiger Mask's corpse on the ground, sees who it is, gets very upset, like tips over their gigantic dining room table. So you're like, oh, okay, he's very sad about that. Something's. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, they're brothers. I think we maybe even mentioned it earlier, but that was his brother.
Yeah,
that was there. So then he does go into the kitchen area. They had hidden Drake, where hopefully he wouldn't be found.
Yeah.
As he goes to find Drake, dude, Aaron just shows up and like plants a screwdriver right in this dude's back.
Yeah.
And this is, I gotta give it to him, this is one moment where Landmask is like, you know what? I'm not dealing with this right now. And he leaves the house. Probably the smartest decision he made in this movie.
Yeah, probably so.
Otherwise, Aaron would have murdered him immediately.
Yeah.
But then, she puts a screwdriver right in his back. She tells, so Zeke and, not Zeke, Z and Felix. I keep wanting to like put their names together.
Yeah.
Z and Felix come back downstairs, and she's like, "Oh, how's your dad?" He's like, just resting. He just had to lay down." So then she's like, "Okay, well we're gonna set up traps. We're gonna do things here."
Yeah.
And she says, "I stabbed him." And Felix is like, "Oh, did you kill him?" And I think she says something kind of funny about, "I highly doubt that."
Yeah.
So then what they start doing is she's like, "Okay, I got boards and stuff." So then she and Z start making traps up here. Well, then she sends Drake and Felix down to the basement, and she's like, "If you find any rope, bring rope. They're gonna go downstairs and grab whatever they can find."
Yeah.
And she tells Z how to start putting nails through these boards. And this is going to come back in a minute. But what she does is so fucking ingenious. Even my mom was like, "Man, that's really good. That's smart."
Yeah.
So she has, this is very the Home Alone type section of the movie where she's actively placing traps for these guys. So what she does is she has two boards that she's put nails through. She puts one a little in front of where you would probably step.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you look in, you see it and you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm just not going to step that far out." But then she has another one almost right up against a wall.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say now, someone later on sees it and is like, "Aha, I'm just not going to step on that one," and then steps on the hidden one anyway. Yeah. It is so fucking smart. Fantastic.
And I can say from personal experience, stepping on a nail hurts.
Oh, don't you? I've stepped on a carpenter nail before. You know what that is? It's got rivets in it like a screw, but they're all even, so you can't just twist it and pull it out. I had to get pliers and pull it out of my foot. Yeah, fuck that. That shit hurt.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's also a moment where Z has a chance where she is maybe going to kill Aaron. Which she picks a weird weapon. She's got one of the boards with the nails in it. It's a small board, too.
So I guess the idea is if she can land the nail right on, like, the side of her head, maybe it'll do the job.
Yeah, but I just saw Aaron freaking go Jason Voorhees on some dude. You really think I'm going to go after her with a board? I'd go after her with a bazooka.
I don't know. You get one good swing in. It's just like Denzel in Gladiator 2. He just puts the nail right in the ear, you know?
Yeah, but that kid wasn't murdering people like it was their job.
Yeah. Actually, he was.
Okay, you know what? That's fair.
But
yeah, and then we get what, to me, the daughter is the saddest death. Drake's is the second for me.
Yeah.
Drake doesn't know yet about Kelly. Should also say that when the dude came in and like startled Aaron and she fell down, he freaking takes Kelly's body and like busts the window in with it.
Yeah.
And then that's when he steps. Cool shot of him stepping in too.
Yeah.
Before he gets tenderized.
Yeah, and so Aaron he asks Aaron where Kelly is and what's.
And she's like, "Oh, we don't know."
Yeah, we don't know. We haven't seen her. And so they're down in the basement, like you said, collecting.
Yeah, and it's just Drake and Felix that are down there.
Yeah. So they're having a conversation while they're starting to gather items back and forth, and eventually it comes down to him mentioning Kelly again, and Felix is like, "Oh, you don't know? Kelly's dead."
Yeah, this is so douchey because then he starts getting emotional, and then they kind of like start to get angry at each other, and then Felix just starts stabbing him
in the
not like one thing, stab in, pull out, stab in. It's like puts a screwdriver in and puts a screwdriver in and like fills him with tools.
Yeah,
and it stabs him like 9 times, and then Felix is such a bitch and is like, "Why don't you just go ahead and die already? Don't you know how hard this is for me?" As Drake is just like stabbed with 10 different fucking things.
What a freaking tool.
Dude. Really? You should apologize to America for that one. It's so... Why did he have to tell him about Kelly before he killed him? That's so just fucking mean, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. Like... Drake has been kind of a douche throughout the first half of this movie, but it's not really been towards Felix.
Yeah,
it's mostly been towards Christian.
And you know, it's one of those things where Drake's kind of a bit of a douchey older brother. I don't necessarily know that he's like a bad person.
Yeah,
I mean, he went to go to protect his mom earlier. Yeah, it's one of those things where he's not, the best person, but I don't think any of these characters, other than the two, are like bad people.
Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as to say that like we don't know anything about Tariq except he was a filmmaker.
Yeah, that's true. He could have been a fucking psychopath.
We don't even really know much about Amy outside of the brief conversations. She seemed nice.
And Tariq seemed pretty nice.
Yeah, and Drake and Kelly, they were a bit douchey, and they had a minor Vicodin addiction, I guess. I don't know, but they weren't seemingly bad people.
Yeah.
So it does suck to just kind of get that extra wound in, like.
Yeah, that one makes me a little sad. Yeah. Also, I don't know, the sibling killing another sibling, that gets me a bit.
Yeah, and
I mean, he murders Drake.
So then
we get another moment where Aaron fucking plays a big brain. So Aaron so far has had like sort of minor injuries.
Yeah.
She starts getting a little fucked up here. So there's a moment where she gets kind of cornered upstairs by Fox Mask and just knows like I'm not in a position to deal with this right now. Yeah. She turns around and fucking busts through the window upstairs and she lands and she's like, it's obvious she's hurt. She looks down and there's a piece of glass sticking out of her leg that you're like, oh, that looks bad, but it doesn't look. Oh man, they really do a good one with this. So then she takes off into the woods.
Yeah.
And she goes and pulls the piece of glass out, and you realize it's at a different angle than you first think.
Yeah.
It is like a 4 or 5 inch long shard of glass that was in her leg.
Yeah.
Because when you first see it, it doesn't look that bad. And then when she pulls out, you're like, oh shit, never mind. And then she looks down and she sees something on the ground. And then she shines a light that she has on it, and she sees it's the screwdriver that she put in Homeboy earlier.
Yeah.
And there's a great shot where she looks up and sees one of the masked figures, and as she pulls her light up on it, he raises the crossbow. And then she ducks at the last second, bolt hits the tree, and then she hobbles back into the house. And then she goes where they were storing Drake earlier. There's like a little spot in the kitchen that, I don't know if it's maybe like a pantry or something, but it's got these little... like curtains in front of it that you can close it and you can really not be seen.
Yeah.
But she gets down in there and she's hiding. She kind of tourniquets her leg a little bit. And then this is the point where she officially hears an argument between the two killers left and Z and Felix. And she learns now, okay, they're bad. Okay, I got that.
Yeah. I will say I'm very disappointed in you. You failed to take your opportunity to say yeet. Yeah.
I got the one in. I'm good.
But yeah, this is where we have just like most of the exposition coming in of like,
Yeah.
this is what the plot was. We're gonna pay. Felix and Z were conspired with these guys, and they're gonna pay them.
He raises the amounts right then, so I think
Yeah.
it's like $500,000 each.
Yeah, at that
It's
point,
a lot of money.
like he raises the money because the leader of everything. His brother died, so he's gonna also get his brother's share. So they're planning to pay out of the inheritance money because.
And he does specifically say, I'm going to be worth millions.
Yeah.
So that's where you're like, wow, this isn't just a bit of money. This is a ton of money.
Yeah, this is a ton. And obviously at this point you're figuring, okay, all the other siblings are dead, so they're going to be sole inheritors. You also, I guess you kind of also get a hint kind of that at least the main guy, the main masked guy and his brother were maybe ex-military or something like that. They kind of drop a line about how they've
something in the service.
Yeah, been in the service or something like that. So it just gives you kind of an idea of like where the tactical gear is coming in, where their training is kind of at with this whole thing.
Yeah.
So it drops that. As you said, this is where Aaron kind of gets clued into the whole thing, and then finally the 911 text goes through.
Yes, and her fucking phone goes off.
Yep.
And they all turn, and she's like, oh shit. So, Aaron, this to me, this is the, and I told my mom this, I was like, this is the smartest thing she does in this fucking movie. Where she goes out and she takes off out the front door of the house. And then she immediately, so you think, okay, she's going to run off into the woods. She immediately backpedals and then goes through the window back into the kitchen. By the time they get to the door to take off after her, they don't see her. So they
don't know what's
So it's
going
4 people. So at this point, you've got Fox Mask, Lamb Mask, which we do learn here in a minute. Their names are Tom and Craig. Not going to use those masks. And then Z and Felix. They all take off outside. It is a little bit before this that Lamb Mask stepped on the nail trap, so one of his feet is, pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Also, when they're pulling the nail out, it's not like a straight. It's like, oh man, they did not do a good job pulling the nail out of his foot. They kind of like wiggle it around a little too much.
Yeah.
But the 3 of them take off. He looks at the window and realizes, He goes and looks in the window, and boy, Aaron just pops up and plants a knife right in his fucking forehead.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm like, that was like the big dude. He was just about to kill Felix 2 seconds ago.
Yeah. So
and he gets such a kind of anticlimactic death. You do get this great fucking shot that was, if I have this movie on like Vudu, like Fandango now.
Yeah.
The shot that they've got isn't the cover of the movie. It's the shot you have of Aaron bloodied with the axe in like the window frame.
Yeah, that's a great shot. I love that.
Such a good fucking shot, man. So yeah, that one is here. So the 3 remaining bad guys, they're off in the woods looking for her. She sets up a great, Kevin would be so proud, from Home Alone.
Yeah.
Home Improvement. I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah, she grabs some string and just sort of sets up a little trap at the front door where she has the axe hanging and sets it up.
With a brick on it, too.
Yeah.
Put a little bit more weight, make it swing a little faster.
Yeah.
So she's got it set up so that if someone opens that door, they're going to get a face full of axe. And then, Felix, Z, and the other masked person, the Fox mask at this point, they have a conversation outside that he tells them to walk the road, and then if you see her, put her down. So you say, give us your crossbow.
We don't have weapons.
Yeah. So he gives them the crossbow, and he tells them it's got 2 shots. You're like, all right, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
So then they go off. He goes back in the house. Son of a bitch does not use the door.
Nope.
Comes in through the window. It's like, damn. But Aaron has set yet another trap downstairs, and this is probably my favorite part of this movie. So the basement looks like almost a long hallway, and when she sees that he didn't get hit with the trap, she's like, fuck. So she takes off down in the basement. As she comes in, she immediately grabs a log. I'm guessing it looks like firewood.
Yeah.
And as she's running, she's busting out every light bulb that's down there. And I say every, there's 3.
Yeah.
And then what she does is she sets up, she did have a digital camera earlier in the film.
Yeah.
And she sets it up on a timer with a flash at the far end of the room.
Yeah.
So he comes in and he's slowly walking towards it, and the flash is all he can see is like the flash.
Yeah. I love this.
He gets a little close to it, and she gets up, comes from behind him, and just obliterates his head with this log. Very much like the meat tenderizer. I told my mom, I'm like, you know how sometimes in horror movies you've got the, oh my god, the bad guy's gonna jump back up. Not in Aaron's movie.
No.
She puts these dudes down.
Yeah, I love this whole sequence from a filmmaking standpoint because you got the flash going off and it's setting up that tension. It's masking the cuts in between everything, so you're getting little cuts of Aaron like slowly creeping up, trying to sort of silently prep to get him. He's creeping towards the camera flash, trying to do this, and it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, building up the suspense. And then Aaron just starts whacking, and as she whacks him, it just cuts and flashes.
Yeah,
and flashes
keeps flashing.
And
oh my god, dude!
I love it. It's great. It's a great bit of filmmaking.
This is one of those moments as well where we talked about the budget earlier not really being like that. It's so creative.
Yeah.
And it's not extravagant. It's not some big thing. It's literally a woman with a piece of firewood wailing on this dude. But it is so fucking good. I mean, it is so fucking well done. But yeah, then she goes back upstairs, and there's a kind of weird moment where she's in front of the windows and she stops for a second, almost like she knows something happened.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking gets hit with a crossbow bolt.
Yeah.
Fucking bitch ass Felix.
Felix
shot her through, and then they both come through the window. So you're like, well, son of a bitch. And the funniest fucking thing is that my mom is like, oh no, they didn't come through the trap, and she's like, oh no, what if the police? And I was like, son of a bitch, my mom called that.
Wow.
But yeah, so then it goes pretty fast. They shoot her. She goes into the kitchen. There was a scene earlier where she was in the kitchen and was setting stuff up. She had some boiling water going.
Yeah. And
there was a big thing of oil that was like cooking oil that was there as well. Pretty standard fight where they get her in the kitchen. They're both trying to kill her. She hits him with the oil, and he's like, you idiot, it's not even wet. As he takes a step, he fucking slips and falls.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, that wasn't the purpose. Oh man, this is I think probably the best kill in this fucking movie.
Mm-hmm.
Is so she's wailing on both of them. He stabs her in the back with a knife, and she like screams, knocks Z down, grabs the fucking blender, hits him with it, breaks the glass part off,
and just
jams
right
the fucking blade into his head, and then plugs it in.
Yeah. And
he is like holding it, screaming, it's spinning, blood's coming down. We're fucking cheering in our living rooms like, yes. And then I made my mom laugh because then like she slowly turns around to Z, who's down on the floor. And I told my mom, I'm like, huh, if only she had a weapon. She reaches in, pulls the knife out of her own back. And I'm like, what a fucking badass.
Yeah.
She even does like a little flip thing around and just
drives it into the top of her
plants
head.
that thing right in the top of her head. I mean, done, dead, done. And then this shot really makes me think of, so earlier we had the shot where Lamb Mask was sitting next to the dead body.
Yeah.
We get a little bit of a thing like that with Erin, where she kind of just slumps to the floor, and she is kind of between Felix and Z. She's kind of next to Felix, but Z's body's over there.
Yeah.
So at this point, she's done. She killed all the invaders. She killed the other 2 guys. Every family member is dead, except Felix's phone goes off. And she reaches in. What I noticed were very tight jeans.
Yeah.
And she pulls the phone out. She looks at the number for a minute, makes a little bit of a face, and then answers, but doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
And she holds it up, and son of a bitch, it's Crispin on the other side. And he's saying stuff like, is it over? Sorry, I saw the blood, and you know I'm a pacifist. Which, fuck off. I couldn't stand to be there, but I saw I had service, so I knew that should also say that at some point earlier, Felix turned off the jammer.
Yeah.
He's like, I saw that I had service, so I thought, I can hear you breathing, don't be mad at me. So you're like, wow, he's 100% in on it. And then, son of a bitch, Crispin comes through the fucking window. But man, he is looking around, and there are bodies and blood and everywhere. And then he looks into the kitchen, and you see Erin around the corner with a steak knife in her hand. Yeah. And he's just like, wow. I mean, she's like covered in blood. She's been shot. Her fucking leg is like being held together with a tourniquet.
Where's Felix?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Where's Felix? I stuck a blender in his head and turned it on, and Kristen's like, oh, okay.
And Z?
I put a knife in her skull.
Of course.
Dude, it's like, oh god. And he's laying out the plan. He's trying to talk his way.
Yeah, he tries to tell her, hey, now I'm the only survivor. I'm going to get all the money so we can think about your student loans. Think about this.
We can pay off your student loans. We can take a trip to Paris. You were never in harm's way.
Yeah.
You were supposed to be the witness because it had to be someone other than just Z. Yeah. But we had no idea you were going to be so fucking good at killing people.
Yeah. So
amazing line.
Yeah, he talks about that. He talks about how... maybe I'll propose soon.
And dude, it sucked. Erin starts tearing up. Like, you can tell there's some part of her that wants to say yes.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing I do is, I wish I knew how long they had been dating. That's the one thing I'm like, I wish I had that little bit of information. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's just, I would have liked it, because I feel, if it's been like a month, then I wouldn't buy the end of this. But if it's been 6 months, a year, whatever... then okay. But yeah, she tears up a bit, and you can tell she kind of wants to. And then she just takes that steak knife and just fucking stabs him right in the side of the throat.
Yeah.
And pulls it out, and he's bleeding. He goes down on his knees. I think he says, like, why? And then she just stabs him in the fucking eye. Just done.
Yeah.
And then he goes down, and then she gets fucking shot.
Yeah, because guess who showed up?
The fucking cops.
A cop shows up. He sees her, stab him.
Yeah,
so
straight up sees her murder Crispin.
So he shoots her in the shoulder. He doesn't know what the heck's going on.
Yeah, he leans in through the window, sees the same shit Crispin just saw, goes out to the car, calls in backup, and then goes to open the front door.
Yeah, he goes back in. He opens the front door. Erin has kind of recovered. She's starting to crawl towards the door.
Yeah, and she says, wait.
Yeah, wait, no.
And he looks up, his eyes get big, the axe comes down. As it hits him, your neck splatters across the screen.
Yeah. And it's fun because in the end credits you get pictures of the character of Erin.
Yeah, Erin says suspect question
mark because who's gonna believe this story
she's
about to tell? Like, she's the lone survivor in all of this.
She murdered everybody.
Yeah. So, and then you can see the outlines of the house, like in an architect's blueprint or like an investigative blueprint, and you see where the bodies are found, and you see all this as everybody's going to the credits. But
so fucking good.
It's a good movie. The big issue I have with the ending is that I feel like Crispin's reveal comes a little too late.
That's fair. The only thing I can think about is that, for us watching this, I feel like even the first time it was very obvious. My mom had no idea. My mom really thought Crispin had died. So I was like, you know what? I think there is a certain level to which it works. I would not have enjoyed if he participated in any of the fights.
Yeah.
If he had been there to try to kill Erin, or even if he had been there to try to stop Felix and Z from killing her.
Yeah.
So the reveal maybe, but I don't know that his involvement would have helped the film at all.
No, that's the thing. I don't think you need involvement, and I think to an extent the long absence he has works because you just kind of forget about him through most of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about it that just irks me, and I can't really put my finger on it. What it is. But overall, it's fine. It doesn't hurt anything. It's just, again, a personal preference sort of thing.
Yeah. My mom, when we watched it, when Erin was in the woods and saw the screwdriver, the first thing she sees is a splatter of blood. My mom was like, "Oh no, Crispin!" And I was like, "Damn, that's a good point."
Yeah.
I guess I forget sometimes what it's like for a non-horror nut to watch one of these movies, because of course that's something like a regular person would think. For me, the whole time I'm like, he's in on it. He's the bad guy, obviously. But I was like, damn, that's good. That is good. they show the screwdriver, but it's not like, because it's night and she's got a flashlight, it's not a big reveal moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, I think that works better than I think it does. Where, Crispin's gone for so long, you tend to forget that he's in the movie. So then when he comes back, for me, I think it's fine. You could have maybe thrown in a line if Felix had mentioned something, because there's a scene when Felix is talking about how much I'm going to pay you. I'm going to pay you more for your brother. He could have slipped in a line.
Well, he's the one of the commandos, one of the hired guns.
Craig's the one penny name, and Tom's the one over on the side.
I think Craig mentioned something about. He uses a plural form. He says like you
I think he says like you guys
or something like that, and you're meant to think that
that's
it's
a good fucking point. I thought it was he and Z, but it is a good idea. It is a good point that it would be he and Crispin.
Yeah, you're meant to think that it's him and Z, that they're talking about him and Z because they're together. You know, it's going to be that. We know that they're the two that are definitely in on this thing, but the reveal of Crispin makes it obvious that he's talking about them too.
But yeah, like I said, I'm a big fan of this. I know that I'm obviously partial to the film. I like it a lot. For me, it really is just Aaron. I love a fucking smart horror movie character. You do not find them often. I also like when the smart person comes out the other side.
Yeah.
It does sometimes kill me when the smart person is smart and it just doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not saying every person needs to survive every movie. That's unrealistic, especially in horror movies.
Yeah.
But I do like when they play it smart and it pays off. It does well. I think the movie, again, very well written, very well acted. I like the home invasion part. I like the fact that it's an hour and a half. It's not. I think if it had been any longer, it would have dragged on a bit.
Yeah.
I like that it's not so short that I'm like, I wanted more. It's just right. I think everything in the movie for me was just right.
That cool 90 minutes runtime really sells this movie a lot. It's a nice, easy, like sit down, watch it real quick kind of thing, and get out. It's fun. Like I said, I don't really have too many issues with it. It just doesn't hit me the same way as it hits you because it's just not my thing. Like I like horror movies. You're much more the horror movie guy than I am.
Yeah.
I too do enjoy the main draw, as you said, is Aaron being this strong character. Sort of this, she's the final girl, but she's the twist on the final girl who's competent and able and capable and everything else. That's something I also like. My favorite slasher franchise is Nightmare on Elm Street. And you know this. I've told you this before.
I do not remember that, and I am shocked by that information.
Yeah,
you don't like puns, and he is doing snippy one-liners for most of those movies.
Okay, let me rephrase. My favorite slasher film is Nightmare on Elm Street.
That makes so much more sense.
And then you have New Nightmare. In there.
That's fair.
So one of the things that draws me to that one more so, and then Halloween as well, is the strong central characters of Nancy and Laurie in those two movies. Can't believe I almost blanked on either of those.
I was going to say Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah. But yeah, Erin is really the selling point of this movie.
Yeah.
She's the one. It is. We were talking a little bit before we started recording. Sharni Vinson, who plays Erin, really hasn't done a whole lot since this movie.
No, it's a couple. I think under 10 films, and she was on one TV show for I think 3 years, and then a few appearances here and there.
Yeah,
and then she was on Australian Survivor, I think.
Yeah.
I will say one thing about Barbara Crampton for this film is so a lot of the movies I mentioned earlier were a little older. She was very young in those.
Yeah.
Still think she is great. Still thoroughly enjoy her in films. And she said that this film was a bit of a revitalization for her.
Yeah.
Like this was a bit of a comeback movie for her. And she's been acting pretty consistently ever since.
Yeah.
So I also think that because of how much I like her,
I can see that.
I was like, that might also color my enjoyment of the film a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just really like this movie.
Are you sure it also doesn't have anything with the fact that Adam Wingard happened to go on to direct a couple of Godzilla films?
Son of a bitch. I didn't think about that.
Because he did Godzilla X Kong and Godzilla X Kong New Empire, right?
Oh, that's right. I don't like those though, especially not New Empire.
No, it's because you don't like Kong.
I like seeing him get his butt whooped in Godzilla vs. Kong. Thoroughly enjoyed that. You know what? Let's talk about that right now.
We already talked a little bit about that. Maybe they'll get their own episode one day. We'll see.
Maybe. But yeah, really hope you guys enjoy this episode. Obviously, I enjoy the movie a lot. I enjoy talking about it. Next time, we're going to talk about something not as horror related. I will say that we did a schedule for the next number of episodes. Man, it is so funny, some of the stuff that we have back to back. Like super gothic, bloody guts horror movie. The next episode is almost like a kid's movie. I freaking just love stuff like that. I just constantly fight to make this not a horror channel from beginning to end. It's hard for me not to do that.
Yeah, it's hard for me not to let him make this a horror channel all the time. There are so many things. And again, I don't dislike horror. I really like horror movies. Nosferatu was one of my favorite films of last year. But,
Yeah. Yeah, hope you guys enjoy this episode. And in the meantime, I'm Bradley.
And I'm Brendan.
And this has been Story Proof.